Hello, today I'm going to explain a map of the province of Quebec. So here is a map of Quebec in Google Maps. As you can see, it shows the biggest cities at this scale. The biggest cities are Montreal, Quebec City, Sherbrooke, Saguenay, and Ottawa with Gatineau. So yeah, those are the main areas where there's a lot of population. There's also Trois-Rivières, which is uh, between Quebec City and Montreal. After that, um, most of the province over of the rest of the province over here is not that populated. It's very sparsely populated because it's mostly indigenous areas. There's some pockets of population here because it's exploited by mining companies and stuff. There's also here where there's some kind of population, but not that much. After that, um, uh, there are a lot of uh, smaller cities near Montreal. Um, the main one being Laval, and another one being Longueuil, which is over here. Um, there's a lot of cities, so like Terrebonne is pretty big too. Uh, there are a lot of cities. After that, you have Quebec City, which uh, has Lévis as a big neighboring city, but other than that, there isn't much population elsewhere. So yeah, that's basically Quebec City. After that, uh, Sherbrooke um, mainly only has its own city um, that has some kind of population. The rest is pretty rural or not that populated. After that, uh, over here, there's kind of two cities that are disconnected from the rest of the province. Drummondville and Victoriaville are near each other, but they're far away from other cities. So Drummondville has about 80,000 people, and Victoriaville has about 50,000. And uh, they're basically the center of the province, which is why they're in the Centre Quebec. Um, After that, you have cities over here, Saint George and Thetford Mines. Uh, they're both they're not that big, but they're important population centers in their area. St. George has about 30,000 people, and Thetford Mines has about 25,000. Um, Near Trois-Rivières, there's also Shawinigan, which is which has about 50,000 people. Um, in the north of Montreal, there's a lot more population centers, but the further you go, the further there's less population. Over here in Montérégie, there's a lot of population. There's Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, which is a big population center too. There's also smaller cities in the area like Granby and Saint-Hyacinthe. Granby is now part of S3, which is one of the administrative regions. After that, you have Saguenay, which includes three parts, and it used to be three separate things, but it was all merged together eventually. Um, there's also Alma, which is a big epicenter too. Um, Other than that, there's also this part over here, which is Gaspésie-Îles-de-la-Madeleine. Île-de-la-Madeleine is over here. It's pretty close to Prince Edward Island. There, in English, it's called Magdalen Islands, which is not entirely accurate, but yeah. Um, After that, here the biggest places are Gaspé and Percy. Um, After that, if you go further along over here, the biggest population center is Rimouski, which has about 50,000 people too. Um, there's also Matane, um, Trois-Pistoles, Rivière-du-Loup. They're all relatively big, but for their area. Um, After that, there's Montmagny. Um, Now over here, it's part of a different administrative region. There's also up here, which is next to New Brunswick, which has two population centers, Dégelis and Temiscouata. Um, After that, over here near Quebec City, you have Île-d'Orléans, which is pretty close to Quebec City, but doesn't have much population because they decided to not uh, densify much. So it's kind of like it was 400 years ago with a lot of prairies and stuff. Um, After that, uh, over here there's a lot of tiny municipalities. There isn't that much over here because the further you go north, the colder it gets, and people don't generally don't really like being too cold. So, and also there's a lot of mountains in this region too. So there are other mountains here, but people colonized them earlier, so uh, they, they conquered them and made more municipalities here. Um, Over here, Sherbrooke is pretty close to New Hampshire and Vermont. Uh, the Beauce area and stuff is very close to Maine. Um, uh, Montreal is close to Ontario and uh, New York State. It's also pretty close to Gatineau and Ottawa. Gatineau uh, is a big population center, mostly because it's next to Ottawa. Um, Around Gatineau, there's some population centers, but they're not that big. Um, there's also Abitibi-Témiscamingue over here, which has some cities, but they're mostly for mining, uh, like in this region here too. Um, there's also Anticosti Island, which doesn't have much population. It only has like one or two municipalities on it. It was kind of abandoned, so no, nothing much happens here. Um, After that, if we go with routes, the most popular routes are the Autoroute 20, which which is the 20 highway that leads from Montreal to Quebec City, passing by the Rive-Sud. Rive-Sud is the south shore of the St. Lawrence River, and Rive-Nord is the north shore of the Fleuve de Saint-Laurent. So when people say Rive-Nord and Rive-Sud, that's what they mean. They mean it's north of the, the St. Lawrence River, and when they say Rive-Sud, it's the South Shore. So that's that. Um, After that, there's also apart from the 20 highway, there's also the 40 highway, which goes from the North Shore, um, and it traverses Trois-Rivières at the same time. Um, the 20 highway also continues further. It goes to about here and kind of stops because there's another route here, 132, that uh, kind of follows the 20th highway right until it ends, and then it becomes the main route until you reach Gaspésie and all. Um, After that, um, there are also smaller highways and other routes. There's a lot of them in the Montreal area. I won't name them because I don't know much about this region, but yeah, there's a lot. Um, After that, there's the 10th highway that goes from Montreal to Sherbrooke, which is which has a lot of traffic too. Um, After that, there's these other highways. They're kind of important, but not as much. Um, there's 55, which goes from Drummondville to Sherbrooke too. Um, After that, you also have another highway close to here, which goes from Saint Eulalie and near Victoriaville to Trois-Rivières. You also have the 73, which goes from Beauce to the north shore of Quebec and continues up until about this area, which then becomes another route and goes to Saguenay. Near Saguenay, there's this 70 highway. After that, there's also Highway 85, which goes from Rivière-du-Loup to New Brunswick, which becomes the main route for the Trans-Canadian Highway. Because before that, it's the 20th highway that is the Trans-Canadian Highway, but after that, it switches to go to New Brunswick and stuff. Um, Near Montreal, the the 20th highway, I think, continues, but I'm not sure about that. Um, so like continues and goes to Ottawa and stuff. Um, there's also the 50th highway that goes from uh, near Montreal to Gatineau. And then there's small routes that go um, to Abitibi-Témiscamingue, um, like these routes. Now, if you want to know the distance between this and this, Quebec City and Montreal, it's about 3 hour drive. Um, Either if you take the 20 or the 40th highway. Um, Although if you take the 40th highway, uh, you might take a bit more time, but not that much. Um, the 20th highway traverses a little bit more municipalities, I think, from what I've heard. The region of Montreal covers about what I'm encircling here, um, and the region of Quebec City about this area. Quebec City is pretty big for the amount of population it has, which makes it very sprawling, which is not that not that good of a urbanism strategy, but Lévis kind of inherits some of that too. Um, there's a like Lévis extends to here, which like many parts of Lévis are kind of detached from one another. Um, Quebec City does have places that are detached from one another, but not as much. So yeah, Montreal is much more dense because it's on an island. They they were kind of forced to use less space and makes the island a lot more dense, and that's why Montreal generally has much more going for it because the density it has allows more uh, infrastructure and stuff. Like it has a lot of bridges, um, about four over here, two over here, um, some between Montreal and Naval, which is kind of a lot. Um, there's kind of a controversy right now for Quebec City and Lévis to construct a third uh, bridge, although it's kind of ironic because Montreal and Laval have like six bridges, which is kind of a lot more than what Quebec City and Lévis have. Although it's true that uh, making another bridge, like they want to make the bridge in this area. Um, they could have went for making one here, but it would bring urban sprawl up to this place, which people in here don't want. And it would have also been complicated for ships to pass because it's kind of the only place they can pass without hitting a bridge. So yeah, there's that. After that, Trois-Rivières only has one bridge, and I think you can't cross it with a bicycle, from what I've heard. So, like, if you're biking from Montreal to Quebec City, you can't pass here to change route because it doesn't allow it. Um, and like, yeah, there are a lot of routes vertes between Montreal and Quebec City, which allows bikes to travel from Montreal to Quebec City. Like, I know there's one that goes from Montreal to Quebec in the North Shore over here that passes through Trois-Rivières, and there's another one that goes to Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, and then there's kind of nothing in this area, but then it comes back here at Richmond and then goes up until Lévis and goes to Quebec City and stuff. There are some places that they say is bikeable, but uh, um, it's not that well maintained for that. Like I know that over here in the 132, they say it's bikeable, but it's not that bikeable because there are some traffic and like there's no separate bike path, so you have to ride on the curb, which isn't really good. A lot of places near Montreal have connecting transit to Montreal, so there's a lot of trains in this area that go from one of the neighboring cities and goes into Montreal. Um, Also, Longueuil and Laval have metro stations which connect them to Montreal. There's also a project right now that would bring Brussels to Montreal via the RAM, which is a new transit project for Montreal. Um, there's also a project in Quebec City to make a tramway that goes from over here, about over here, like it continues up to here, I think, and then it goes and stops like in this area. Um, it's kind of controversial for some people, but the mayor of Quebec City wants it to be done, so that's that. Um, Other than that, most cities in Quebec have some form of bus transit, which makes it practical to not have an automobile, but generally the transit systems aren't that great either. So, like maybe if you live in the downtown core of the city, you might be able to get around without a car, but if you don't have a car, you don't have much of a chance to go anywhere else. So that's why most people in the province of Quebec own a car, except people maybe in Montreal, because Montreal is very developed in its transit systems, which makes it possible for more people to not use their car as much. Over here, like uh, next to Quebec City, Baie-Saint-Paul-la-Malbaie, there's Tadoussac, which is one of the oldest settlements in North America. Uh, you can try to get there by car, and like there's a ferry, but I think they want to maybe build a bridge here for it to be a little more permanent. There's also naval. You can get from one place to another using ships and stuff. Uh, like I think when you see dotted lines, it's a possible route from one place to another. Um, like this and this. So yeah, there's that. And in the area in Quebec City and Lévis, there's also another one close to here. Um, yeah, like here, I think, which kind of serves like a third bridge, which makes the third bridge not that useful, but at the same time, the boats aren't that large to transport people. So if they did build a bridge, it might make it a little more practical. Um, People have debated the bridge because it's very complicated to build it, and um, there used to be a proposal for it to only be transit, but the government decided it's not the best option, so they decided to make the bridge a lot more focused on cars and stuff, which isn't very good for urban sprawl. Um, Although, like this area over here is already quite dense, so it doesn't really have much of an argument for that. Like, sure, there could be some development over here, but it wouldn't spill that much. Um, like, since the ferry is already there, um, like people already go from this place to the other place, so it doesn't really change much. There are other places that could have had bridges, like over here between Tracy and Saint-Ignace de Loyola, which have a ferry too. Um, I think they tried to make one, but it didn't succeed, so I don't know much about it. Yeah, there's that. There are a lot of old bridges in the province of Quebec, which need a lot more maintenance, and sometimes they break down, and then people decide to not build them back. So, yeah, there's that. This place over here is generally called Côte Nord. Um, Over here, it's called Lac Saint-Jean, um, because this is the lake for Saint-Jean. So yeah. Um, Over here, it's called La Capitale Nationale. Here, it's called Chaudière-Appalaches. Centre du Québec, like I said before. Estrie, Montérégie. Um, then there's Lanaudière and Laurentide in this area. Um, After that, you have Outaouais, Abitibi-Témiscamingue, Nord du Québec. I think there's Jamesy or something like that in this area. Um, yeah, I think the Northest settlements in the north of Quebec and central area is probably Chibougamau and Chapet. Um, they're kind of the northest places where you kind of have most amenities. Like you also have Sept-Îles um, and Fermont. Fermont, um, I think there isn't that much stuff, but like you can get by staying there. It's just that most people who go there usually go there for jobs and stuff. They don't like if you work there, you work in the main industry. So there's that. Over here, it's a lot of indigenous settlements and Inuits and stuff. Um, over here, there's Iqaluit, which is pretty close to Quebec. um, as you can see, Quebec borders New Brunswick. It also borders Newfoundland and Labrador. Um, I think in the past, some of this territory was part of Quebec, but it isn't really anymore. There's one part over here that is kind of debated if it's part of Quebec or Labrador, which, yeah, there's that. Getting from Montreal to Toronto takes about 4 hours by car, so there's also that. Um, Trois-Rivières to Quebec City and Trois-Rivières to Montreal is kind of like 1 hour and 30 minutes. Same for Drummondville, I think. It's kind of they're kind of the centers of the main highways. I think from Sherbrooke to Montreal takes about an hour. Um, and Sherbrooke from Quebec City is about 2 hours or something like that. Um, from Quebec City to Saguenay, I think it takes maybe like 7 or 8 hours. Um, to get to Gaspésie, it's about 10 hours from Quebec City. Um, from Montreal to Ottawa takes about 2 hours, I think, too. So yeah, there's getting from one big city to the other takes a lot of time, but maybe not as much for like other places like Ontario and stuff, but it's still quite a lot of time. Quebec City has a lot of urban sprawl, not just within the city, but also near it. So, like a lot of people from, I don't know, maybe like maximum here commute to Quebec City every day. Um, and from maybe around here, uh, people also commute, which like I think over here it takes like maybe 50 minutes to get to Quebec City. Same for about this area. Um, some people do work in Lévis, so like it's not as bad as other American cities, but yeah, there's usually a lot of traffic in the 20 highway um, when you go in the morning or come back in the afternoon. There's also a lot of traffic in on the bridges. There's also a lot of traffic in Montreal, um, especially near the bridges too. Um, like it's well known that it takes maybe like 3 hours to commute from in the morning and 3 hours to come back. So it's a lot of commute time. Um, like I think maybe like the maximum distance is maybe Grand Bay, like in this area. So like if you encircle this, it's kind of like the general area where people commute from to go to Montreal. Um, Sherbrooke, I think like not that many people commute to Sherbrooke, but when they do, they generally come from either Drummondville or like the other cities around, which takes about 1 hour too, so or 1 hour, maybe 30 minutes max. Um, I don't know much about Saguenay. Uh, I would assume that some people might commute to Saguenay from like Saint-Jean, but I think most people probably commute here. So yeah, um, like Saguenay is the biggest city in the area, but Alma is still quite big too. So there's that. Um, Other than that, there isn't much commute. There's Gatineau, which obviously has a lot of people commuting from Gatineau to Ottawa because Ottawa is the capital of Canada. Um, Other than that, there isn't much commuting. Um, it's mostly calm. It's also like I know the 116 is heavily used too, um, especially for people near Victoriaville, um, because this is a big epicenter and Lévis is a big epicenter too. So there's a lot of people coming from Lévis to Victoriaville and even going to Richmond to go to Sherbrooke and stuff. This area over here has a lot bigger mountains, which explains why there isn't as many municipalities as over here, because bigger mountains make it difficult to get into to the territories. So that's why, like over here, there isn't much of anything because the mountains are extremely big, which is why most settlements are near the coast. Like over here too, it's a big mountain. Are some mountains here too. So that explains why like most of the area north and most of the area in this place has a lot of mountains, which explains the reason why people stay on the coast. But it also explains why a lot of farmers are over here because the mountains are a lot smaller, which makes it easier to cultivate and farm stuff. So yeah, I think I've went over most of the things about Quebec. So if you have any questions, leave a comment in the comment section. And yeah, um, thank you for watching, and I hope this was useful. So yeah, see you next time.